Yes, Doctor. Just 1 minute.
Okay. The creed of the Aryan fighter. There is a reference to that, chapter 2 in the Gita, verses 1 to 38. That's what Srimbe is commenting about. Yeah.
The creed of the Aryan fighter. The answer of the divine teacher to the first flood of Arjun's passionate self-questioning, his shrinking from slaughter, his sense of sorrow and sin, his grieving for an empty and desolate life, his forecast of evil results of an evil deed is a strongly worded rebuke. All this, it is replied, is confusion of mind and delusion, a weakness of the heart, an unmanliness, a fall from the virility of the fighter and the hero. Not this was fitting in the son of Gita. Not thus should the champion and chief hope of a righteous cause abandon it in the hour of crisis and peril, or suffer the sudden amazement of his heart and senses, the clouding of his reason and the downfall of his will to betray him into the casting away of his divine weapons and the refusal of his God given work. This is not the way, cherished and followed by the Aryan man. This mood came not from heaven, nor can it lead to heaven. And on earth, it is the forfeiting of the glory that waits upon strength and heroism and noble works. Let him put from him this weak and self indulgent pity. Let him rise and smite his enemies.
Yeah. Okay. So, what he is discussing here, hidden behind the words, is two things. There is one, a gentleness, and a not any violent action. Okay, so that can also have two characters. And on the other hand, a great violence and a battle and a destruction can also have two aspects. So the first one is the gentleness. Okay, I don't want to harm anybody. I don't want to do this. Now this can be the weakness of the nerves, and it can also be a the ahimsa, the highest. I am not overpowered. I am not overpowered by my weakness, but still I will not react and I will be calm and quiet. This is at the lower end. The weakness, so called weakness, what you call non aggression, has two. It can be from the weakness and the incapacity to retaliate, and also it can be I will not retaliate but from strength. Again, the same thing in the violence also, at the higher opposite level, when you are hitting back and you are fighting, it can also be out of hate and disgust and anger. But it can also be an absolutely calm, quiet destruction. So these are the two things that is being discussed here. And Arjuna is very confused between the his refusal to fight and resort to gentleness is nothing but weakness of the nerves. This is what Srindra is making a distinction between the two. So remember, it's not the outer action that matters. It is the inner attitude to which you take. It can be both in the non-violence as well as the violence. In the non-violence, it can be a weak reaction, and it can also be a strong reaction. And in the violence also, there can be a true calm and quiet and a disturbed violence. So these are two things that we have to distinguish very clearly. Okay? Our Arjuna, who is not a intellectual or not yet a spiritual man, but he is sattvic. He understands and he recoils from the war that he has to face. Remember that there is even a physical reaction. Okay, his body starts trembling. Vepathu is the word used. Okay, and also his Gandiva, the bow falls from his hand, and even physically he feels there is a feverishness and he sits down. So all this is so clearly a weakness of the nerves. Okay, so this is not real pity. The human pity is not divine compassion. Divine compassion can even be violent. Durga can kill you, your enemy, and attack you out of love. Okay, so this distinction we have to be very clearly we have to make. Ahimsa is not a weakness. It has to be a real strength. That is what Arjuna is not able to understand. And Sri Krishna is scolding him and telling him this difference between the two you must be able to realize. Okay? So we start reading now the creed of the Aryan fighter. First of all, the creed. What's a creed? It's a system of religious beliefs, but fixed beliefs. Okay? That does not allow anything else. For instance, okay, you have to go through Christ only if you want liberation. That's a creed actually. It's a religion, but it can also be. It can be even narrower creeds. There are many creeds all over the world, and but the Sanatana Dharma is no creed at all. That's why it is Sanatana. So this is the creed of the Aryan fighter. What does he believe in? Then the Aryan, he is not an ordinary fighter. He is an Aryan fighter. The Aryan is, the word Arya is very interesting. It comes from the root which means means to plow the field. In other words, you are preparing the field for sowing your crop. Okay, so apply that concept to also your psychological. Okay, you are actually purifying your soul, purifying your body, mind, life, so that you can sow the crops of success in the spiritual field. That's the implication of the word Arya. And that no wonder then that Sri Aurobindo used the word Arya for his magazine, which he ran for 6 years, from 1914 to 1920. So, and the fighter. So this fighter is not an ordinary fighter with hate and anger and nervousness. No, he's the Aryan fighter. So now we come back to the text. The answer of the divine teacher to the first flood of Arjuna's passionate self-questioning, first of all he has a reaction. He sits down. Then he realizes when Shri Krishna scolds him, so they have used the word rebuke. No? So he realizes that he is, and he says, please guide me, I am your disciple. So then starts the teaching of the Gita. The answer of the divine teacher to the first flood of Arjuna's passionate self-questioning, his shrinking from slaughter, his sense of sorrow and sin, his grieving for an empty and desolate life. Remember the empty and desolate life, because if he kills his own family, what remains for him in life? You enjoy your family, you enjoy all along with your family. If the family is not there, what enjoyment will be there? His forecast of evil results. He goes on saying how there can be mixture of caste and the women can be molested, and there is a confusion that occurs and standards fall, dharma falls. Okay, he's grieving for an empty and desolate life. His forecast of evil results of an evil deed is a strongly worded review. And he says even if we win, it will be blood-stained enjoyments. What's the use of all that? Now, Sri Krishna answers, all this, it is replied, is confusion of mind and delusion, a weakness of the heart. Heart here in the sense of the nervous being, the emotional part, the higher vital and the lower vital. There's confusion in both. And unmanliness, a fall from the virility of the fighter and the hero. If you are an Aryan fighter, you are the fighter and the hero. Not this was fitting in the son of Pritha. Not thus should the champion and chief hope of a righteous cause abandon it in the hour of crisis and peril, or suffer the sudden amazement of his heart and senses, the clouding of his reason, and the downfall of his will to betray him into the casting away of his divine weapons and the refusal of his God-given work. This reminds me also of Sri Aurobindo's attitude during the British occupation when he was taken to court. Okay? He told the court very clearly that I have absolutely no hatred for the British. I have nothing against the British. But what I want is that I must be able to live my own civilization and my own culture. I should be able to resort to that. And when there is a foreign hand over me, a foreign rule, I cannot completely go back into my own civilizational values. So that is the reason why I am fighting for it. So very calm, quiet, and he even advocated violence if possible. He gave up violence later on because it was not practical in the world. He saw that it is not practical. Okay? And it was well proved by Subhash Chandra Bose's violent methods, which did not succeed fully. It had effects, it had tremendous effects, but it did not succeed fully because the whole army, he had built up 20,000 soldiers, more perhaps, but they all perished in the jungles of Malaysia in the monsoon that came, and also many of them were killed in Assam when they were entering Assam. So, this is the attitude of the you have to resort to violence if God gives you that work, but without anger, hatred, and any feeling of disturbance in the heart. Calm, quiet. That's what he is saying. This is not the way cherished and followed by the Aryan man. This mood came not from heaven, nor can it lead to heaven. And on earth, it is the forfeiting of the glory that waits upon strength and heroism and noble works. Let him put from him this weak and self-indulgent pity. So it's a his reaction is self-indulgent pity, weak and self-indulgent pity. Let him rise and smite his enemies. I don't know if you have seen ever sometimes, but if you are in the roads and there is a very violent accident, okay, there are many people who rush to help, but there are some who can't bear the violence of the accident and they sort of withdraw. And there is even a nervousness in the being. That's one thing. There is also another thing. When people get angry, there is an effect on the body and you start shaking. That's weakness. It's not strength at all. Okay. So this is what he's saying in the you are resorting to weakness of the heart and the nerves. Now you have to do the violent action, but with a calm spirit, without anger and without hatred and without any disturbance in the being. That's what he says. So, where is the next para? Nearly a page.
Excuse me.
Yes, please.
Who is this Pritha?
Pardon?
You know,
Son of Pritha.
sons.
Oh, acha. Yeah, that's right. Pritha is, son of Pritha is who? Not
Arjuna.
this. Arjuna, of course. That's why his name is Partha. Okay? Partha
No, but
is
who is Pritha? Who is Pritha?
his mother, the son of Pritha. And Pritha also, Arjuna's actually mother is Kunti, isn't it?
Yes.
But yeah, but they have several names, no? They're not only one name.
Yeah, that is another name for Kunti.
Yeah, that's right. So, that's why his name is Partha. In Sanskrit, you have the guna and the vriddhi. So this is the vriddhi of Pritha. Pritha becomes Partha.
And Kunti becomes Kaunteya.
Pardon?
Kaunteya also from Kunti, no?
That's right. Kaunteya. That's right. He is also called Kaunteya. So many different. These interesting grammatical turns don't exist in Sanskrit, in English. Okay? But that's why Sanskrit is such a rich language. It's fantastic. Okay. Shall we read the next one? Who will read? Okay,
Another thing, Rangada, is that in those days, children were known by the name of their mother.
Yes.
Children were known by the name of their mother.
Yes, now in South India we have name of the father. Even
So everywhere it's the same, na? Like hardly anybody knows who the mother is.
Yes, that's right. But
Pandava also.
yes, tell me.
No,
But they were
Pandavas, no?
Pardon?
Pandavas.
Panduputra.
That comes from Pandu.
Pandu,
No, I'm not saying that everybody was named, but what I'm saying is in that time the importance of mother was so much there. during
Yes.
that time.
And
Yes,
you
but
know, uh,
even
Archana,
Satyakant says, "I'm son of Jabali." Yes,
yeah,
Ranganath.
yeah. In South India, even today, you may take not only the name of the father, but you even mention the town you come from. Okay. Sirkaji Govindarajan. Okay, what is it?
Yes,
Sirkaji is a
exactly.
town. So you have that's his name, Sirkaji Govindarajan. There are so many Govindarajan, but I am from Sirkaji. Okay, Trichy so and so. Okay, so very very specific identification of the person. In South India, it is still common. Even my name earlier was from the village where I come. Okay, and Raghavan is my father's name. So that's very common practice in South India. I don't think in the north it is not like that, no? Archanadi?
No, no, Ranganath. The title is only used. The
Yeah,
title goes down through the
the
and
family.
like the title of the father continues, not the mother.
Yeah.
Like I am using still my maiden name. I haven't changed my title, but my children's name is not Modi. They write Taurasiya title.
Okay. And in the north you have Dvivedi, Trivedi, Chaturvedi,
Yes,
Patel. So all these are all to, but it's very wide. It doesn't specify exactly who you are. So anyway, that's part. Yeah.
Rangada, Kunti had some Varda, no, from whom she got these children. It is
Yes.
not from Pandu actually,
Yes.
Yeah, that's
because
right.
like Karna was
yes,
born with the
Exactly.
god of
yes,
story.
yes,
The
yes.
Yes,
sun god.
so that may be a sun god. Yes, so
Yes.
Yudhishthir was from another god like that. She had this.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
That's why it is so clearly symbolic, no? And
hmm,
also remember, Karna is a very interesting case. He doesn't know who his father was. Okay?
hmm.
Nor does he know who his mother was. Is that our condition? We come from the supreme divine and we don't know it. That's it is so clearly a symbol. He is born
But
from.
before the war, he knew.
Yeah, that's right. Later on. Okay.
No,
Yeah. Okay. So let's read the
just
next.
before the end, he comes to know. No?
Pardon?
Uh, Towards the end, he comes to know. No? Karan, that who is
From
his.
before the war, then he promises Kunti that she will have 5 sons. Either Arjuna dies or he dies, one of them.
Ah, there is something like that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes,
I
yes, yes. Right, correct.
I
That
have
is
to.
just after. I mean, okay, maybe before or after
That
the, but
is
before
before the
or in
war.
the beginning.
I mean,
Yeah.
in middle of the war,
Ah,
yes.
Yes, yes, you
yeah, yeah. Towards the end, he.
that's right.
Yes.
No, once Karna meets Kunti goes to meet Karna and she
Ah.
tells him, "Okay, I am your mother, but
Hmm.
you were born with the sun god and I was not married. So I
Yeah,
was forced to put you in a basket and let you go in the river."
that's
And
right.
then somebody finds him and they didn't have a child, so they adopt him. So
Yeah.
that is the time Kunti says, and he promises Kunti
Will have
before the
fight.
war that I will not kill your sons.
Yes, yes. These are all very highly symbolic things, very, very interesting. But anyway, yeah, Mahabharata and Ramayana, for thousands of years they have come down. Na? Most of the Indians, they love the stories. These stories are so deep and so symbolic, yet even from the superficial aspect, the stories are so fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Okay, let's read the next para now. The answer of a hero to a hero.
Shall I read?
Yes, do that.
The answer of a hero to a hero, shall we say, but not that which we should expect from a divine teacher, from whom we demand rather that he shall encourage always gentleness and saintliness and self abnegation and the recoil from worldly aims and cessation from the ways of the world. The Gita expressly says that Arjuna has thus lapsed into unheroic weakness, his eyes full and distressed with tears, his heart overcome by depression and discouragement. because he is invaded by pity.
Kripaya Vishtam.
Upayavishtam.
Yeah.
Is this not then a divine weakness? Is not pity a divine emotion which should not thus be discouraged with harsh rebuke? Or are we in face of a mere gospel of war and heroic action, a Nietzschean creed of power and highbrow strength, of Hebraic or old Teutonic hardness, which holds pity to be a weakness and thinks like the Norwegian hero who thanked God because he had given him a hard heart? But the teaching of the Gita springs from an Indian creed, and to the Indian mind, compassion has always figured as one of the largest elements of the divine. The teacher himself enumerates in a later chapter the qualities of the godlike nature in man, places among them compassion to creatures, gentleness, freedom from wrath, and from the desire to slay and do hurt, no less than fearlessness and high spirit and energy, harshness and hardness and fierceness, and a satisfaction in slaying enemies and amassing wealth and just enjoyment are and unjust enjoyments are asuric qualities. They come from the violent, titanic nature which denies the divine in the world and the divine in man and worships desire only as its duty. It is not then from any such standpoint that the weakness of Arjuna merits rebuke.
Okay. So this is the very interesting work he has said here, and this is what we discussed right in the beginning, the two types of actions, the non-violent action and the violent action. The non-violent action can be out of weakness or it can be out of strength, and the violent action also can be out of a wrong attitude of hatred and disturbance in the being and rancor and anger, but it can also be a calm, quiet, right action because it is necessary to destroy something. So this is what is being discussed here. It's very interesting. And in fact, in this, when he says, Krishna tells Arjuna, stand up and fight and enjoy a vast kingdom with all its wealth. Now, Sri Ranganath has discussed this also in the last chapter of the Life Divine. He says that usually it is held that spiritual life must be very, very simple and it must be poor. You must have minimum amount of belongings, and you must live the life of an ascetic and not enjoy life as such. That is all wrong. In fact, it goes to such an extent that there are many people who say enjoyment is wrong. Okay, there are things like that. Okay, you should not enjoy because it is vital. So Sri Aurobindo counteracts that. He says absolutely not. Wealth and splendor is a aspect of the divine, but you must enjoy wealth and splendor, but without desire, without attachment, without ego. So then your enjoyment of wealth and splendor and beauty is absolutely right. But when you enjoy wealth and splendor and beauty with desire, attachment and ego, then it is wrong. Again the same thing. The action itself has no value, but the attitude with which you are doing has a value. Okay, so that's it. It means so. We'll go through each. We have plenty of time. We'll go through each sentence and tell me whether it's clear. Okay. The answer of a hero to a hero, shall we say, but not that which should expect from a divine teacher, from whom we demand rather that he shall encourage always gentleness and saintliness and self-abnegation and recoil from worldly aims and cessation from the ways of the world. Is that not what we expect? We don't think the divine is cruel, and we confuse cruelty and violence. There can be violence without cruelty. There can be violence with grace. There is a very interesting phrase in the Mother when he is describing Mahakali, and he says her hand is always raised to strike, and then the next phrase is and to succor and to help. So her hand, even when it is raised to strike, it is out of compassion, because she is doing good to you. She is killing something which is harmful to you. It also reminds me of an interesting incident in the ashram. Okay, there was a gentleman who was asked to leave the ashram because something was reported to the mother that he had done, and mother said, ask him to leave the ashram. Now, this is a very interesting thing which we have discussed earlier also, and Yasmin has raised this question, and she asked also about Gautam. Okay, so this is also a very similar incident. Actually, this man had not done what was supposed to have done, and mother asked him to leave the ashram. But he went to Nolnida and started complaining and crying. Okay, and he said, "But Nolnida, I have not done what I am being accused of." Then Nolnida explained to him exactly what we are discussing now. He says the mother does not depend upon outward circumstances and outward events. She sees the condition of the being and then she takes action. And sometimes they use these outer events to actually help you. So it is, you are not being punished, but you are being sent out for your own benefit. After some time, you will see that you can come back to the ashram. And it did come back to the ashram. He was actually a sweet maker. Okay. Moira, what you call in Bengali, he was a sweet maker. And he went out and he came back later on. Okay. So this is exactly what happened to Gautam also, if you remember. So when mother is taking action, she takes the support of events, but she is not depending on the event and the falsehood and the truth of the event. This is something that is very difficult to understand, but that we have to understand. The divine is not being unjust, not at all. The divine is being merciful to you, and she is doing exactly what you need, your soul needs, not your body, mind, life, but your soul. So, this is what you normally expect from the divine. Oh, you are being so gentle, you are refusing to kill. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I recommend your your behavior. But that's exactly what Sri Krishna is not doing. Okay? So,
You not told us about Gautam leaving the ashram. We don't know about that.
yeah, but the action cannot always be the same. No? In one case, she scolded. In the other case, she said to leave the ashram. Okay? There must be sufficiently spiritual reason for that. In Gautam's case, he was not absolutely unfit for the ashram life, far from it. No? So, in fact, he used to be always there upstairs. Even afterwards, now, who I think Gauri Di and Jhumur, they are looking after the upstairs. But they called Gautam because he knew everything. He knew what is there in each cupboard upstairs. So he was very knowledgeable about the physical aspects of the upstairs of the ashram. So, anyway, I just mentioned that as an explanation. The divine does not always. So here is Sri Krishna scolding Arjuna for what others would have praised him. Okay, so we read the next one. Okay, the Gita expressly says that Arjuna has thus lapsed into unheroic weakness. His gentleness and his pity and compassion is not the divine compassion. It's a weakness of the nerves. Okay, the unheroic weakness. His eyes full and distressed with tears, his heart overcome by depression and discouragement. So it is being put in double quotes, and this is used for the translation by Anil Baran in the Gita, okay, in the book, the Bhagavad Gita by Anil Baran. So very often the translation by Anil Baran uses those words. Here it is absolutely a translation. That's why it's in quotes. Sometimes it is not in translation, but the meaning comes through, and he has used those words wherever necessary. Then, because he is invaded by pity, kripaya vishtam. Kripa is compassion and also kindness, but it can also mean because the word kripana, okay, it can mean smallness also. So the root is the same. That's again a very interesting. No? So kripana is miserly, small, mean. Okay. So here it is used in that sense, not in the sense of compassion, but weak pity, not a strong pity. Strong pity is compassion, okay, which you take action without being disturbed. But here he is being highly disturbed. Even his body, his vital and his mind, all disturbed, highly disturbed. So then, is it not pity? Is not pity a divine emotion which should not thus be discouraged with harsh rebuke? So this is the question being asked, because pity can be of two types. That's exactly what you said. Or are we in face of a mere gospel of war and heroic action, a Nietzschean creed of power and highbrowed strength, of Hebraic or old Teutonic hardness, which holds pity to be weakness and thinks like the Norwegian hero who thanked God because he had given him a hard heart. Now there are so many references here. We'll take up each reference and see what he's saying. First of all, he is referring to Nietzsche. Nietzsche was a German philosopher who had the experience of the self. And there is also a book where he realized that the virtue and sin are moral conditions and they belong to level 1 in the ignorance. But when you go to the self, virtue and sin are all same. So you have to go beyond virtue and sin. But he must have experienced the aspect of power. Mostly when you go to the self, you experience the aspect of liberation, peace, vastness, and freedom. But here he must have, because his whole theory was the spiritual man, the one who rises, must have power. And when he has power, he interpreted, actually others are interpreting his, he speaks of the camel man, the lion man, and all this. And that's why his philosophy was misinterpreted and it led to Nazism. We are a superior race, Aryan race. That was the problem in Germany. So, but Nietzsche was one who had gone up. So Sri Aurobindo calls him a blind seer. He is a seer. Sri Aurobindo gives him praise, but yet he was blind because he misapplied the knowledge that he got. So that's Nietzsche. Okay, creed of power and highbrowed strength. He stressed the aspect of strength and power, but not the aspect of gentleness, love, compassion, sympathy, all these things. No. It depends on what you experience. No? So in Nietzsche's case, that was the aspect of power that he overstressed. Or of Hebraic. Okay? In the Hebrew religion also, you have which has come down to the Christian religion, God can punish you. Okay? In Hebrew also, God can be like a king. He is dispensing justice. There is reward and there is punishment. In our Indian system, no punishment at all. God is only kind. So when does the cruelty and when the fate becomes adverse to you, you yourself have done it. Divine is not doing anything. Okay? So that's a Hebraic. Or the Teutonic. The Teutons are in North Europe, Sweden, Norway, okay? These countries which are there in um, that peninsula which juts out like that. So they are the Teutons. I think Germans also are in the
Germans also.
Yeah, Germans also are in the Teuton race. But there, the hardness, okay, they were warriors. And so that's what Sylvia is saying. And he's giving I don't know who the Norwegian hero was. I'm not sure. There are many stories also and many movies also made on that. Okay, I forget the name. But he is the one who thanked God because he had given him a hard heart. Because if he doesn't have a hard heart and he is kind, how will he win wars? So that's why he thanked him. Okay. But all this is not the Indian teaching. But the teaching of the Gita springs from an Indian creed, and to the Indian mind, compassion has always figured as one of the largest elements of a divine nature. Ahimsa is something that is taught in all our religions. non-injury to living creatures. Okay, so, but it is not out of weakness. Remember that. Okay, that's the whole thing. You must make a distinction. It must not be misinterpreted. The teacher himself, enumerating in a later chapter the qualities of the godlike nature in man, places among them compassion to creatures, gentleness, freedom from wrath, no anger, and from desire to slay and do hurt, no less than fearlessness and high spirit and energy. So they seem to be contradictions, but these both he is recommending. This is from chapter 16, verse 1 to verse 3. Okay? Verse 1 to verse 3. I was supposed to have written down, but I have not written. No, it is there. 1 to 3. Ahimsa, Satyam, Akrodha. Okay? So all these are Shanti, Apaishunam, Daya, Bhuteshu, Avaloluptam, Mardavam. Mardavam is a noun from Mridu, from gentleness. Hri, Achapalyam. So, Achapalam. So, all these are the qualities that are recommended. Both are being recommended. Fearlessness as well as gentleness. This is the. So, is it a contradiction? That's not exactly what Israel is pointing out. Okay? So, although you are pointing out gentleness, and it's the inner attitude that matters. Gentleness should not be weak. Neither should heroism be hard and cruel. Subtle difference. The outer action is not the important one, but what is the attitude with which you are doing what you have to do. Okay? So, the teacher himself, enumerating in a later chapter the qualities of the godlike nature in man, places among them compassion to creatures, gentleness, freedom from wrath, and from the desire to slay and do hurt, no less than fearlessness and high spirit and energy. Harshness and hardness and fierceness and a satisfaction in slaying enemies and amassing wealth and unjust enjoyments are asuric qualities. They come from the violent titanic nature which denies the divine in the world and the divine in man and worships desire only as its deity. Title asuric. So asura is always enjoying in the wrong way. Okay. And note interestingly how Srimdev is saying denies the divine in the world as in man. So he is giving very clearly that divine can be there in the world, the cosmic aspect, and the in man, the individual aspect. So it is not then from any such standpoint that the weakness of Arjuna merits rebuke. He is being rebuked because his so-called compassion and pity is a weakness and not a strength. That's the. So this is the thing that has to be understood. This is what also in the West they don't understand. Okay, they say there is that Wendy Doniger. Okay, she's supposed to be a PhD in Indian philosophy, and she says that the Gita is a recommendation for violence and war. Doesn't understand the subtlety at all. There are many other things also that she says which are absolutely hopelessly out of the truth aspect. Anyway, so this is the. So we are at 8:29, 8:30. We have got 5 minutes. So very interesting discussion. Nah? So remember, the basic thing here we are learning is the outer action can be either very violent or non-violent. And both can be right and both can be wrong. That's what we have to understand. The inner attitude decides the right or the wrong, not the action itself. The action itself can be very, very harsh and stern, apparently harsh and stern, but it's out of pity that it is done. I reminded you about the mother, okay, Mahakali. Her hand is ready to strike and to succor. Succor is to help. So she can do both. All right, let's read the next one. We've got 5 minutes. We can read the next one. Okay. So, Archana Di and Yasmin have read. Who reads next? Tarika has read, na? Yeah, Tarika read. So, Yasmin, will you read? Oh no. Who read? I have forgotten.
Yes, I will read if you wish.
Okay. I think you didn't read, na, today?
No, I
Tarika
didn't
read.
read.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead. Let's read the.
Whence has come to thee this dejection, this stain and darkness of the soul in the hour of difficulty and peril? Asked Krishna of Arjuna. The question points to the real nature of Arjuna's deviation from his heroic qualities. There is a divine compassion which descends to us from on high, and for the man whose nature does not possess it. Is it not cast in its mold to pretend to be the superior man? The master man or the superman is a folly and an insolence, for he alone is the superman who most manifests the highest nature of the Godhead in humanity. This compassion, observed with an eye of love and wisdom and calm strength, the battle and the struggle, the strength and weakness of man, his virtues and sins, his joy and suffering, his knowledge and his ignorance, his wisdom and his folly, his aspiration and his failure, and it enters into it all to help and to heal. In the saint and philanthropist, it may cast itself into the mold of a plenitude of love or charity. In the thinker and hero, it assumes the largeness and the force of a helpful wisdom and strength. It is this compassion in the Aryan fighter, the soul of his chivalry, which will not break the bruised reed, but helps and protects the weak and the oppressed and the wounded and the fallen. But it is also the divine compassion that smites down the strong tyrant and the confident oppressor, not in wrath and with hatred, for these are not the high divine qualities. The wrath of God against the sinner, God's hatred of the wicked are fables of half enlightened creeds, as much a fable as the eternal torture of the hells they have invented. But as the old Indian spiritual clearly saw, with as much love and compassion for the strong Titan erring by his strength and slain for his sins, as for the sufferer and the oppressed who have to be saved from his violence and injustice.
Exactly what we discussed. It is there very clearly. So, this is what we're saying. And now it is, there were only 2 minutes left. So we won't go through this, we'll do this next time. Whence has come to thee this dejection, this stain and darkness of the soul? Much of it we have already discussed, so the ideas are now quite clear, but he is laying down the ideas very clearly. Okay, so we can do this next time. We won't be able to finish today because we have only 2 minutes left. Okay?
Rangada.
Au revoir.
Over Rangada.
Au
Bonne
revoir,
journée.
Rangada.
Merci
Merci
beaucoup.
beaucoup.
Yes.
Merci.